This is a 2004 Nissan Xterra. We've been having some troubles with a knocking sound coming from the driver's side front tire. When we lifted the car up on a jack to figure out what was wrong, we did the classic test of seeing if it shakes and makes a little sound. As you can hear right here, maybe in this video, it's making a little bit of a sound when you shake it. Likely a sign that the wheel bearings and the rotor brake pad system probably need to get replaced. If you take a closer look here, you can see that our rotor is pretty corroded. It's got some bumps, it's got a good amount of rust and wear and tear. So we're just gonna go ahead and replace the brake pads, the rotor, and the wheel bearings on this front left tire, and do the same for the other side, as you always do these in pairs.
Okay, now that we got the tire off, we're gonna wanna go ahead and remove the caliper. So to do this, you need a 19mm socket. You're gonna go after, let's see, this bolt and this one down here. Okay, now we got our caliper off and it's just hanging here. Just make sure there's no tension on this line. Okay, next we're gonna take these off so that we can remove the cap. Okay, now we're gonna get this snap ring right in there. Okay, you can put the snap ring to the side. Go ahead and remove this. Okay, now you're just gonna remove this, and then we're gonna take off. Okay, this ring should come right off. Okay, you're gonna need this axle nut socket to get to the axle nut right here. So just make sure it has the two prongs. Okay, now we can go ahead and take out, this is our outer bearing. And now we're gonna go ahead and take off the rotor. Okay, so we wanna go ahead and take out this inner bearing. So if you can find a socket that you can fit in there just so it touches the bearing and then hammer on the top of it, that'll get it out for us. So now we got it out. So that's our inner bearing, and this is the seal. You can just set those to the side. Okay, now let's flip it over so the studs are facing down. And then we're gonna take a rag and get out as much of the grease as possible. And then there are two notches, one right here, one right here. We're just gonna take a punch and we're gonna hammer out that inner race. Okay, so we got that race out. And since we are replacing both of the bearings, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over and knock out the other race. Okay, use your bearing installer to install the new race, and you don't want it to be too big just because you need it to get all the way in there. And if you're using a metal hammer, you'll be able to hear a difference in the sound when it's actually all the way installed. Okay, so I got both of the races in there, and I'm gonna replace my rotor while we're here. So I'm gonna take off these bolts. I think it was 14mm socket. Okay, so now we're gonna pack the bearings, and the best way to do this is to just take a bunch of grease and then go at it like this, nice and slow. You want to keep going until you see the grease squirt up through, and once you see that, you can just keep going around and around. Okay, so I've packed the whole thing pretty good, and I'm just gonna take some more grease. Just keep rubbing around the whole thing. Okay, I'm just taking some more grease and rubbing it in here just as much as I can. I'm gonna go get some more. Okay, just gonna place the bearing in here. Okay. And now we're gonna tap on the seal. We just put a book over it and then hammer it in.
Use plywood.
Yeah, use plywood if you can, but we don't have any. Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna put the rotor back on, and then we're gonna put on the outer bearing. Okay, I just finished packing this bearing, and now we're just gonna put it in. Okay, now we're going to use a torque wrench to put the axle nut socket back, bring it to 60 foot-pounds.
I think it was 160, right? No, it was 60.
Okay, so this lock needs to line up with 2 holes so that way we can put back in the little screws. You can tighten or loosen the axle nut socket if you need to, but just like probably 15 degrees or something, really small. Putting back on the lock and the washer. And now the snap ring. Okay, so if you have your caliper back on, you can just put it back on your tire and you are good to go. We're gonna go ahead and replace our brake pads too. So if you wanna do this process first, we're gonna put a C-clamp on the pistons just so we have more room for the new ones. So just do it a little bit, you don't need to do it too much. Okay, go ahead and take off the mounting bolt. It's this one right here. It just needs a 14mm socket. And then this part is gonna come up. And if you want to, you can just use something to hold that in place while we take out the brake pads. So first, keep in mind the positioning when you do this. This is the only one that is different, and it has this little clip at the bottom. So just take out your old ones, and you're going to want to take out your old clips too. We're just going to replace those while we're here. And just keep going. Okay.
Taking out the old clips.
I narrate. Okay, I'm just taking out the old clips. Okay, I'll get that one in a second.
Then I'm going to put in the new ones.
So my video.
Putting in the new clips.
No, we're putting in the new clips.
Yep, got the clips in. Now we're going to compress the piston here using the old brake clamp and
the old brake pad.
The old brake pad and C-clamp. It's been a long day dealing with this one.
Okay, so you can remove this part, and then we're just gonna clean this and put new brake grease on it. Okay, we're gonna take this out, and I already cleaned it off, but we're gonna put some new brake grease on there. And then you wanna put some brake grease on all your new pins too. Right here is fine. Up here, all 4 of those points. We're just gonna put some brake grease on the back of the pads and then they're ready to go in. Okay, the new brake pads are in place, so we're just gonna lower this and put back on the mounting bolt and then we'll be good to go. If it doesn't fit, like it might not right now, you might just have to push the pistons back in to place. Just use your old brake pad and a C-clamp and that should be good.
Charge it.
Okay, now we're putting back on the mounting bolt and then the tire and we are done. Make sure to pump your brakes a lot before you take your car out for a test ride. Okay, bring the last bolts on the tire to 100 torque and then you're good to go. I hope you all have a lot of success.